Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I want to tell you about the amazing chess prodigy who is Tani Adewumi. But as he's popularly known around the chess world now, you can call him Tani. He became a sensation in March of 2019 when he won a section of the New York State Scholastic Championship with 5.5 points out of 6, while he and his family were living at a local homeless shelter in New York City. There's a popular video on YouTube that was filmed just weeks after that tournament in New York when Tani traveled to the St. Louis Chess Club and played a couple of Grandmasters in Blitz. This Grandmaster in particular is Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura, and I'm going to analyze that game while I show you the video, and then we'll talk more about the amazing chess player that Tani is. So the players shake hands. We have e4 from Tani and c5 from Hikaru. Tani plays knight c3, looking at like a close Sicilian. Hikaru responds with d6, but nope, Tani goes back to an open, knight f6, and now pawn to d4. We have a trade in the center, and now Hikaru has a choice, and he goes for the dragon Sicilian.
Hey Ryan, can I bring someone with me?
At this point, someone asks someone if they can bring someone with them. It's unclear where, but that detail is unimportant. Tani is going for a think. This seems like a 5-minute blitz game, filmed in like the behind-the-scenes room or something of the St. Louis Chess Club. Tani plays h3. It's the US Junior, and I believe the US Senior at that point was going on. Bishop g7, played by Hikaru. Typical dragon stuff, castles. The board above the chessboard you can see. Bishop e3. Knight c6, and there Tani tells Hikaru that he looks different on stream than he does in person. And Hikaru asks Tani, is this what you normally play against the dragon? And Tani says yeah, and they have a laugh. Hikaru going for psychological warfare on the 8-year-old. Tani plays bishop c4, short castle from Hikaru. Tani trying to tell Hikaru subliminally that he's ugly. Bishop to b3. I'm just kidding. I just have to make some sort of comedy here. h3 was played to prevent anything from coming to g4, and now Hikaru plays the move knight to a5, looking to get this bishop on b3. Tani responds with queen to d2, creating a battery, trying to eye bishop h6, not showing Hikaru where he's going to castle just yet, and Hikaru develops his final piece with bishop d7, looking to play b5 potentially, rook c8, typical dragon ideas. Tani swiveling in his chair, that's a power move from the youngster. Anatoly Karpov was known to do so as well in his world championship matches. Tani not even looking at the board, he's looking at what's behind the Hikaru. Maybe looking at the cameraman while top-level chess is going on the screen behind him, just next door. Now Tani plays bishop to h6 with the intention to, of course, trade off this bishop and potentially start some sort of instigation over here on this side of the board. b5. Played by Hikaru. This can be taken, but you of course would lose a defender of your pawn here. This is a very common idea and makes Tani go for a think. Tani solidifies the center with f2 to f3, and Hikaru responds with e5, immediately striking. Hikaru could have taken on h6 to deflect the queen away, but the problem is you really don't want your queen to lurk. And now Tani says, wait a minute, can't I just take this pawn? And he, as you see, kind of hesitates, but ultimately takes. Hikaru finally snaps off this bishop. He kind of didn't really have any reason to take it just yet. But now complications will begin. Hikaru's also got a looming idea, queen h4 check. Tani does go for that. And we see Hikaru snap off this move. Knight takes e4. So now the idea is to go queen h4 check and pick up this bishop, which has 2 attackers on it. He's also opened attacks here. Hikaru not taking it easy on the young player. And Tani realizes that no matter what he takes back with, he's in trouble. Knight takes e4, Hikaru plays queen h4, kind of hesitates for a brief moment. Tani plays knight back to f2, and now bishop takes h6 is played, and Hikaru's combination is complete. But if I can just pause very quickly here for a moment, if you look at the board above you, you'll notice Hikaru hesitated when he played the move queen h4 check. The title of this YouTube video is actually called, Can You Find Tani's Missed Win? And I remember I was watching this video, which gave me the entire idea to film the video that I'm currently filming. And I was like, why did Hikaru hold the queen there? And it's because in this position, there's this move g3, a stunning move g3. The knight defends the pawn. So now if you were to take with the bishop, which is what Hikaru did in the game, then after well, king d2, bishop b5, white is actually slightly better. I mean, white is not up any sort of material, and you cannot actually take this because you will get pinned. But white actually has a small advantage because black's pawn structure is not as great in the center of the board and on the queen side. Yes, white has doubled pawns, but actually there are even bigger problems after bishop h6, and it's not the fact that you can trade the queen, it's that you have this move. So there would be a queen hanging and a bishop hanging and knight here. And furthermore, if you go for this, there is takes, and the knight jumps into f6. So before Hikaru can even take that knight, there is knight to f6. So it's actually funny. Hikaru played knight takes e4. Obviously, you know, when you play kind of a kid, for example, particularly one that you know is talented, but at this point is rated like 1400, as you can see, you're not going to go completely guns blazing all out. And when that happens, there are moments, and I've had this against intermediate students as well, there are moments in games that you're like, oops, and the door is open for them, and well, Tani UC played this move very quickly, so I just wanted to pause there and show that that is the missed win in the video. And obviously Tani should feel good about himself having that opportunity. But now, from here on out, there are problems for white, because obviously there are two threats. So white needs to play a move that will guard this knight. Tani thinks for a little bit and does play queen to d5. The problem is that there is so much pressure here on white's position that Hikaru doesn't need to rush. He can take on b5. He can also just bring a rook to the party and pressure this pawn. And you see him do exactly that. And here Tani plays a move is met with a bit of a laugh between the players, because he blunders the bishop on the other side of the board. Bishop takes rook, and that happens. You know, rather than resigning, he just decides to play it out. It's not every day you get to play such a strong player. So rook and queen now come in this way. Tani drops the knight back, Hikaru plays bishop c6, and it's just good to see kind of how to convert a position like this. I know some of the stronger viewers watching will be like, why is this important? This is silly, Levy. But Tani thinks for a little while, maybe 10, 15 seconds, and ultimately he settles on this move, g3 in this position, counter-attacking Hikaru's queen. But ultimately what happens is Hikaru can take a queen, we have a queen trade, and you don't even need to hesitate. Just bishop takes knight, you're up a lot of material. Knight takes bishop, the bishop comes back, e3. The good thing here is that the rook is cutting off the king, and now at some point you need to realize your material advantage, and that material advantage is the rook, which is standing far away. And furthermore, you obviously have this skewer. So we have rook c1, king e2, rook takes rook, and king takes bishop from Tani. Hikaru plays f5, a nice structural move, disallowing the king from any further escape. And now this important move, rook to d8. And from this point forward, we have what's called the cleanup process. We take a couple of things, and yes, of course, Hikaru can promote multiple queens in this position. But what he does is he just hunts down Tani's king. He cuts it off with the two rooks. Good instructive lesson there for the beginners watching. Tani plays knight back to b1. Hikaru takes the pawn so as not to lose his rook. And then this very important move to just deliver a sort of ladder checkmate. And Tani ultimately resigns, and the players will shake hands when Tani plays king to e1, because Hikaru has a choice of which checkmate to deliver. Now, this video is named what it's named because, obviously, well, Tani had an opportunity earlier when this move queen h4 happened to get a winning advantage. But that's very difficult to see, and obviously, given the moment, I don't think that he can be too disappointed with his result. So I promised that I would tell you a little bit more about Tani, and right now is exactly when I'm going to do that. So that video that you just saw was filmed on March 30th, 2019. At least that's the upload date on YouTube. So the State Scholastic Tournament was March 5th and 6th. I actually coached some of my students at that very tournament. They did not become champions. They were nowhere as skilled or driven as Tani. His work ethic is incredible. Now, let's go back a little bit. So in 2017, Tani's family fled Nigeria for fear of religious persecution. They're Christian, and they filed for religious asylum to the United States. When they got to New York City, they knew a church pastor, I believe is the right word, and he helped them kind of get sort of situated, and they lived at this homeless shelter. Now, Tani managed to get enrolled in PS 116, which is a school on the east side of Manhattan. And the crazy thing is that I've lived in New York City my entire life, so I know PS 116. I have taught chess students at PS 116 when I was a teenager, and my students when I was teaching, played in chess tournaments at PS 116. So I even know their chess coach, Sean Martinez, who was Tani's first chess coach. I played Sean Martinez when I was a kid and he was a teenager at tournaments in New York City. And it's crazy, we're both now, we both were chess teachers in New York City. It's just that's kind of my personal take on it because I know chess in New York City. And Tani was enrolled and had his fees waived for the after school program at PS 116. Well, his teachers, I have the actual article literally on this monitor, and his teachers say that, he took to chess. He did 10 times as many chess puzzles as some of the other students, and he did all of this while living at a homeless shelter. I mean, like, when his family was interviewed in March, they saw him like laying on the floor solving chess puzzles, and chess can really be this kind of escape. I mean, many of you, if you've made it this far in the video, you know that chess can be a positive addiction. It can also be a negative addiction because the spiral is kind of crazy. But how many of you have gotten through potential downs in your mental health or tough times in life by finding chess during the pandemic, right? And it's just amazing because it can give you a sense of value and a sense of work, and it's great to see. When Tani's story broke and hit the news, it was incredible. They raised the GoFundMe. People donated an apartment for his family. They donated a car. I believe they raised like $200,000, which his family is using for obviously for living, but also they started a charity to help students and kids in the same spot that Tani was in when he was at the shelter, which is amazing to see. Tani was invited on all sorts of talk shows. He met former President Bill Clinton, and one of the cool things about chess is that he went to the St. Louis Chess Club, which is obviously where the Chess Hall of Fame is, and he was able to play against Hikaru, Fabiano Caruana. But remember, back then Tani's rating is 1500. By the way, I'm still talking. This is all unedited. I'm pretty impressed with myself that I can just... Anyway, that was 2019. Obviously, 2020 killed Tani's opportunities to play chess because of the pandemic, so he played online. I've played Tani before. I won. I'm 3-0, but I should probably be 1 win, 2 losses. I'll be very honest with you. But I did want to show you some of Tani's other successes and tell you that a few weeks ago, it's currently 2021 in May, Tani became a national master. So he is 10 years old now. At that point, he was 10 years old, and he became a 2200 rated player. So he's gained 700 points since that initial video, which is just unbelievable. This is his statistics page on the US Chess Federation website. So it took Tani just 350 tournament games in the US Chess Federation to hit 2200. Now, I don't know if in 2020 this counts some of the online that he played. Okay, looks like it doesn't. Looks like he still had an opportunity to compete in late 2020. I know he had to take a very long break. It took him 350 games. So for comparison, ladies and gentlemen, your humble favorite YouTuber, those two things back to back sound pretty funny. It took me about 700 tournament games. It took Tani half that amount of time to reach that level, okay, in over-the-board competitive play. Now, one more thing which is amazing about Tani is he's an exceptionally gifted puzzle rusher. In fact, Tani became quite famous, and there's a video of him on YouTube also playing Hikaru in Puzzle Rush. And Tani is frequently around Twitch. He's been in my chat. He very clearly likes Hikaru, and I think he's played Hikaru many times, maybe even beat him in a Blitz game, which is pretty amazing. But I figured it would kind of be mean to feature only Tani versus Hikaru games. So I'm going to show you one other game in the future. But Tani can solve like 50 puzzles in 3 minutes, which is just unbelievable. Luckily, my survival score is still 4 points higher than his, but I doubt that's going to be the case very long. I cannot play Tani in 3-minute Puzzle Rush survival. He is just unbelievable at it. You know, he's just gonna have to grind some of these ratings up a little bit higher as he continues to progress at chess. But I wanted to just show you one more game of his to show you just really how strong he is. This is a game that he played against Hans on Twitch, who's a 28-2900 rated Blitz player on chess.com now. He is a recently minted Grandmaster. He actually also is maybe not currently in New York City, but he's from New York City. And Tani is 2100 Blitz at this point. So we have a London with a6. The whole point is that this is kind of the Jobava London. White wants to play knight b5. Hans just develops his pieces. Nothing too complex yet. Players getting their pieces out. Tani plays h6, a6. And, well, just goes immediately after Hans with this move g5. Tani is very aggressive. He really likes to attack. Hans tries to punish Tani for kind of overextending. So we have takes, takes, and castles. And Hans plays very logical move f4 because you are going to open up your rook. So you just, you make a little pawn break here to try to trade, punish the other guy for putting pawns out in front of his king, which is known as a hook. And Tani here plays knight takes e5. Of course, you take back with the f-pawn to open up the rook. And white is just comfortably better and tries to jump in here with the knight to make a trade, queen g4, and we have queen d5. And it looks like Tani has stabilized the position, but here white can play moves like b3 to try to play c4 and kick the queen out. Most likely black has to respond with b5, then you will play rook c1, c4. But Hans chooses not to target this queen and instead focuses on the other side of the board and makes a nice pawn break h2 to h4. Which is a very smart move. Tani has to play the relatively ugly-looking move, but necessary f6, because, again, if you take, well, then I'm very happy. Then I'm going to take with my pawn, and at least my king stays safe. Maybe we can trade some pieces and get down to an endgame. Hans plays the best move, I believe, which is trying to rip it all open with pawn takes f6, e takes f6. Now, at this point, Hans plays an inaccuracy, and his inaccuracy looks like a decent move. But the general rule of thumb is that if you have some sort of attack, you do not want to trade your most powerful attacking piece. Here, unquestionably, the best move is rook to f5. Because what it does is it attacks the queen, you're going to double up, you're going to maintain the pressure, this pawn is kind of hard to protect. But Hans trades the queens, because if he doesn't, for example, if Hans plays this, then with just one move, black is better. And that move is f5. And it's very amazing how in a position, one pawn push on one square changes everything, right? So we have queen f5, takes, takes, and black has some problems. Black has weaknesses. Tani finds a nice way to give away a pawn, but activate his rook. So he sacrifices a pawn to gain activity on that file, rook c5, and now king to e6, and he's gotten his king out into the endgame very bravely, right? Marching his king, b4, and very important move I told you about a long time ago, f5, trying to activate his bishop. Hans trades pawns, plays rook f1, but now Tani, again, on the momentum, he's been moving forward, 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 f4, beautiful move. Because now the center's falling apart. You can play rook takes g5 in this position and attack the bishop, but that relinquishes the defense of your c7 bishop, and now I take and protect mine, so you can't do that. So instead, Hans plays bishop b6, trying to back up and stop the T train, right? The problem is that I have f takes e3, and now I have doubled passed pawns. Like, one after the other, they're coming, and bishop on d4 is hanging. So what do? Hans plays rook takes rook takes rook, and bishop to c5, disconnecting the rook from the bishop. But Tani now spots a very nice idea. b6, reactivating the rook. When Tani got to play the game on momentum, takes, takes, he was unstoppable. It was a downhill avalanche, right? Now Hans has to play d5 check in order to sacrifice and bring the bishop back. And okay, it looks like he's very briefly stabilizing, but this endgame is much better for black because black has all the activity. In the endgame, if material is equal, you look at the piece utility. We have rook takes a2, bishop takes g5, and now brings in the bishop with check, and all he has to do is push his pawn. And you bet that he did exactly that. Hans plays king to g3, e2, rook e1, but you're just not fast enough. And after this, that's it. The only thing that Hans can do is push his g-pawn. This pawn's not going anywhere. And we have this. But it's not about the b-pawn. It's not about the b-pawn. It's about this. You have to invest in your greatest asset. And Tani realizes that he's just got rook a1 coming. And so Hans plays king f2 and resigns. Because rook a1, rook f1, you're just not quick enough. Well, actually, rook a1, I suppose, is even worse because you would just be promoting a queen. So maybe Hans could have here considered something like bishop h4 with the intention to, well, I guess actually it doesn't work at all anyway because, yikes, this is just not good. There would be some situation you can sacrifice the bishop for the pawn, but it doesn't look like you actually have a way to do it after king c4, king d3 in this. And for example, I suppose that you can delay rook a1 with bishop f6, but it doesn't really matter because I will just play rook c2. Or rook d2. Even better, rook d1. So Tani hasn't just beaten Hikaru in Blitz. He's also beaten Hans. He's beaten some other players. He should have beaten me, full disclosure. And I think only great things await him. It's amazing that in that video, he was 750 points lower than he is now. And he didn't even have a lot of chances to play in 2020. So great stuff from him. We can only expect great things. Many of you probably know who Tani is, but I did want to share this story. Trust me, chess is the great equalizer. You don't need a big budget to play chess. You need the most basic of chess sets, raggedy chessboard, and some pieces, and anybody from any part of the world, any financial situation can learn and be good. And I'm going to tell you all very honestly, in my time of teaching chess at Scholastics, it was the public school kids that worked harder than the private school kids and had the chip on their shoulder. And, well, you know, I'm the son of immigrants, so I know a little bit about the immigrant mentality, it's just great to see. So I only want to wish Tani great things, and we can expect great things in the future, and probably some years from now I'll be making recaps about him at those top-level tournaments. So wanted to share this feel-good story with you all, and I will see you in the next video.